Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Hello, glad you could join us again today. This week we are looking at the jurisdiction of church government, or if you would, the jurisdiction of faith. As we talked about yesterday, the area of faith is its own jurisdiction, if you would. That the Christian principle that we are accountable to God for ourselves, that puts a wall of partition, like Thomas Jefferson mentioned, and it really does it on all sides, if you would. If you would, on one side, it is stopping the government from establishing a religion because that is an individual matter. At the same time, it is stopping the government, according to the First Amendment, from prohibiting the free exercise of religion, because at that point it is something that we are individually accountable to God for. Now, with this, today I want to spend some time, Romans 13:1 has been our text pretty much all through this, because it really deals with the foundational concepts. But unfortunately, so many people read this from the standpoint of this passage is really talking about obeying civil government. Now, it does go into that in later passages, from verses 2 on down. You can apply it. Well, all of it can apply to civil government, but it's not exclusive to civil government. It says, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities or jurisdictions. Authority and jurisdiction go hand in hand. For there is no authority or jurisdiction except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. So if we want to understand those governing authorities or those jurisdictions, then we have to look at what God appointed. God appointed self-government. He gave Adam dominion. He appointed the family. And at that point, he made the father and the mother the head over the household and head over the children. He did establish civil government, Genesis 9:6. And he also has established the church. And in that, we're incorporating all forms of faith, because, again, it is an individual accountability to God. So God appointed those jurisdictions. Now, again, so many people just read it this way: let every soul be subject to the civil government. For there is no civil government except from God. And the civil government that exists is appointed by God. Well, I have issues with some of that at that point, but that's the way so many people read it. And with that, if you would, that makes everything that government does right, that you're supposed to obey it. Now, let me take one that is near and dear to virtually every true believer, and that's the right to life. At that point, when government was saying that abortion was right, if the way people read this verse, that would have meant that we should not have been trying to overturn Roe versus Wade. We should not have been trying to change and eliminate abortion or even to minimize it. Because if this is talking about civil government exclusively, then we should just have went along with what civil government said. No. See, civil government, every jurisdiction is ultimately accountable to God. We as individuals, self-government, we are accountable to God. In our families, we are accountable to God for how we conduct ourselves in our families. And civil government is accountable to God. If you read the Old Testament, you see the judgment that would come on the nations when they would disobey God. Not just Israel, but other nations. God sent Jonah to Nineveh. They weren't God's people, but he still sent them a message about judgment coming. Nations get judged. They are accountable to God. Join us again tomorrow. God bless you.
You've been listening to Ecclesia Principles with Ray Eppard. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook on our Ray Eppard pages. This program was brought to you by Victory Worship Center and World Outreach. Services Sunday 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, 200 Hammond Lane, Stanton, Virginia.